The many things that move Columbus. Next.
Support for Columbus Neighborhoods is provided by
At American Electric Power, we've been proud sponsors of WOSU Public Media for many years and strong supporters of our headquarters city here in Columbus, both downtown and in neighborhoods like yours.
State Auto Insurance Companies, transforming to become a digital provider of auto, home, and business insurance. And for nearly 100 years, committed to the people and neighborhoods of Central Ohio. State Auto. The Columbus Foundation. Smart philanthropy for a smart city. ColumbusFoundation.org. Bailey Cavalieri. Your relationship with your law firm doesn't need to be complicated, it just needs to be right. CODA. Keeps our community moving forward. Falgren Moortime Marketing and Communications. Think wider. Ohio Health focuses on you and your family with a mission to improve the health of our communities. Women in Philanthropy at Ohio State, changing lives by giving together. And by contributions from these and other Columbus area families who support WOSU. Thank you.
In the 1950s, this Chevy was a pretty stylish way to get around. It's one of the many moving exhibits here at the Ohio History Connection, if you'll pardon the pun. We're going to explore moving in this episode of Columbus Neighborhoods. Here's an interesting fact. Just 14 years after the Wright brothers made their first flight in a powered aircraft, Ohio State began its School of Aeronautics. 100 years later, students are still coming to the university to study flight. We sent Charlene over to Don Scott Field to find out how aviation took off at Ohio State.
Doug, The Ohio State University has really a long history with aviation, over 100 years, more than a century. Tell me what the early years were like, and how did this get started?
Really how it started was back in 1917. The War Department picked 6 universities to open up schools of military aeronautics, and Ohio State was one of those 6. The cadets that came in and preparing for World War I would learn everything from aircraft construction through maintenance. They'd learn to fly them, they'd learn gunnery and aerial observation. The interesting thing to look back on is where the original airstrip that the university used was where the current site of Ohio Stadium is. And it was actually approved as an airstrip by Orville Wright.
Orville Wright,
Right.
the father of flying,
Exactly.
was involved in starting an airfield here.
Correct. He and Kettering, obviously being an entrepreneur over in Dayton and a business owner, was one of the university trustees at the time. So yes, it was important that he was involved in that. And I think one of the pictures I know was an aircraft on the Oval. And that was actually flown in here by one of the Army generals at the time, bringing Kettering in for one of the Board of Trustee meetings. He was the first Board of Trustee member to actually fly into Ohio State for one of their Board of Trustee meetings and happened to land on the Oval at the time. One of the photos you can actually see, when you look at it, you can see some of the original buildings, being the original power plant, the original University Hall.
Well, I tell you what, those are the early years, but it sounds like things grew to the point where that was no longer usable?
Right. Well, that airstrip went away with the construction of Ohio Stadium in 1920. So it was between 1920 and 1940 where the university would use other airports around the community that would then fill in for the need that they didn't have on campus anymore. It was in 1942 that President Beavis, he had the foresight, I guess, to see the growth in aeronautics, both from a military standpoint and from an economic standpoint, that he felt that this should be an area that Ohio State begins to take a leadership role in. So he proposed the creation of three things. One, a School of Aeronautics, a Department of Aeronautical Engineering, and an Ohio State University airport. In May of '42, the Board of Trustees approved those three things. They started to build the airport in '42. The first plane landed here, I believe it was in November of that year, and then the first facilities, the hangars that we still have out here today, were actually completed in 1943.
In 1943 is when it was named after Don Scott. Who
Yes,
was
it was. Don Scott was actually an All-American athlete in football, basketball, and track for Ohio State. Following his collegiate career, he was the captain of a bomber squadron during World War II, and he was stationed over in England. And unfortunately, his plane went down during a training mission in England, and he died during that accident. It was later than in 1943 that the Board of Trustees decided to name the field after him. A lot of people think it was because he trained here and all that, but he never flew here. The field was actually built after he was already in the service and over in Europe, but they did name the field in his honor.
And then what kind of functions did the airport serve during World War II?
It was at the time a private airport for Ohio State's use exclusively, and it was really for the military, the Navy training, and the civilian training program that they started here.
There were a lot of women
There were.
who trained in aviation here. And then I understand there was an organization also called the 99s.
The 99, yes.
What is it and why is it called the 99s?
The 99s is actually an international organization, so it wasn't here exclusive to Ohio State or to Columbus or to Ohio, but it's actually a women's aviation organization started by 99 women, which is where they got the name. And the most prominent one was Amelia Earhart. So she was one of the original 99 women that started this International Women Aviation Organization. And they are very strong today. I think they have 5,000 to 10,000 members. And today, we've had some excellent female flight students that have gone out and they're captains on airliners and really have made their way in the industry because they're recognizing the need to have more females in the industry.
That is just so interesting to me. The progression and the continuing of all kinds of different aviation programs. And I understand the university also has continued with the training of the pilots. Tell me a little bit more about that because I know it keeps going right up through today.
Right. Yeah, actually Ohio State, I believe, is probably one of 120 or so universities that actually has a flight education program. It's part of a larger aviation program that teaches everything from airline management, airports, flight itself.
And where do those students wind up? What kinds of jobs do they wind up in after training?
The students that are interested in the airport areas will go and work at airports like the John Glenn Columbus International Airport. They will get in there and work their way up through their system. We bring in a few of them back here too. Like myself and a number of us came through the program here. A lot of them will go to a company like NetJets here in Columbus and do a lot of the flight support. You know, the research side, Ohio State had the premier program in flight physiology for many years and seeing what the impacts of flight were on the body. Also in the development of some of the early simulators for flight training. Nowadays, every kid, I think, has grown up with a flight simulator on their computer or their iPad or something. But at the time, these were state of the art. Nobody had them, and some of the first simulators were actually developed here at Ohio State. And one of the later ones is actually in storage over at the Smithsonian. So Ohio State has been recognized over the years for some of the really cutting edge and leading edge research into aviation.
Well, that is fantastic, and thank you so much for sharing this with us, Doug. It's really been a pleasure.
Sure.
We can be moved when we're physically taken from one place to another. We can also be moved when we're taken from one place to another emotionally. Both uses of the word moving can be used when applied to Heart and Soul, a local organization with a unique mission.
Team Heart and Soul began back in 2010 as an idea, a concept of helping people with disabilities that cannot participate in endurance events. All my family, we were all runners, and so I said to myself, wouldn't that be wonderful to be able to help people that can't participate in a sport that I and my family love.
I've been working with Team Heart and Soul for about 5 years. The people that help push the kids get way more out of it than the champions do. Most of the kids are not vocal and they squeal, they roll their eyes, fidget around, but you can tell they're excited. They're like family after a little while.
So Team Heart and Soul is a nonprofit. We're a 501(c)(3). We are totally staffed by volunteers. Our mission is endurance events. So we do triathlons and we do duathlons and bike tours along with 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons. We have done 1 marathon. Our champions are the rock stars. They're the people that are the athletes that are signed up for the race. They're the ones that wear the number. They're the ones that get the medal. They're the ones that cross the finish line, and their time is the one that matters. Our champions have all different kinds of diagnoses. Our champions are people that want to participate in endurance events, no matter what their abilities or their disabilities. We serve a wide variety of champions with a wide variety of diagnoses. The most important thing is that you look in their eye and you see the love for the sport and the desire to be on a team and to compete.
Just warms your heart and your soul knowing that they've accomplished something and they're so proud of themselves and we're so proud of them. It's just such excitement and a lot of love.
My first race today was so good. I did it with my best friend Andrea. I had a good time.
For me, when they cross the finish line, it's awesome. It's the best experience.
Everybody cheers for them, and seeing them react to that and getting the medal put around them, it makes me feel good to know that I helped them get there. Come out one time and you'll come back. I don't know if in my years that I've been involved I've ever seen anybody show up just once. They always come back because they enjoy it, just like we do.
We use streets every day to get from place to place, but we never give them much thought. It turns out that a pretty important development in street technologies took place in Bellefontaine, Ohio. This story also has an interesting connection to WOSU's weekly art show, Broad and High.
Oh hey, that's my great-great-grandfather. He built the first concrete street in America.
George Wells Bartholomew Jr. is my great-grandfather. I think that he had a big vision in terms of commerce in the United States, in the whole country. And if he could make a road that would allow farmers and merchants to get their goods to market without having their wheels of their wagons and their horses' hooves get stuck in the dirt and the crud and the mud, there could be some real progress in the United States.
Now, the brick pavers at that time were expensive, and they were very loud and noisy as well. And so they actually bid this concrete pavement as an option to the brick pavers. And of course, the concrete pavement won over. Mr. Bartholomew, he started out as a tool salesman. In his travels, came across a person in San Antonio, Texas. This person was German trained in the manufacturing process of cement, and actually George Bartholomew went to Germany for a time period to learn that process. then the next step was to find a local area that had the correct proportions of limestone and clay.
And one of the key ingredients in concrete is marl. And marl's kind of like sand. He found that the best marl was in Bellefontaine, Ohio, was in Logan County.
The supporter and friend of backer that he had out of San Antonio was the Texas State Pharmacist. Well, this chemist, he had a connection with the Bellefontaine Butler Pharmacy. So he set up shop for George Bartholomew to do his experimentation in the back room of this shop.
And I always had this vision of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or something, because he was down there with his little beakers and what have you.
Now his grinding mill was very rustic. It was actually round flint stones imported from Iceland. And they were very affordable because ships traveling across the Atlantic would haul these in the hull of their vessels for ballast. The general public did not trust American-made cement. They wanted German-made cement.
Jawohl!
He actually stamped some barrels of his Buckeye Portland Cement Company product with Nuremberg. And once he did that, he sold it right off. It was actually a test section that the city, at that time the village of Bellefontaine, council approved as a cement paved gutter, they called that at the time. What it actually was a hitching post for the horses across the street from the county courthouse.
And that's what they were commemorating last summer.
Thank you so much. It's really exciting to be here.
It's kind of, even for our family that's out of town, to say, oh, come on to Ohio. It's the first concrete street in the United States. And really? Yeah, it really is.
The city had a performance bond required by George Bartholomew, because they didn't believe it could hold up to the horse hoofs and the wagon wheels. But it was, in fact, very successful. In the following year, council was petitioned by the property owners around the city block of the courthouse that they wanted concrete on their streets as well. The streets around the Logan County Courthouse began to be paved in concrete.
And he was smart, he was innovative, he was creative, and he had a lot of guts. And he had to convince a lot of people that this was a good idea. And now, look around, here you are, everywhere you go, there's a concrete street. And I think that he had to have been a very persuasive guy, but I think he also was a very caring person, especially in terms of the fact that he wanted to help others, and he saw this as a way to make a big difference for everybody.
A section of the concrete was taken to the Chicago World's Fair in 1893. And at that World's Fair, it was displayed as a new pavement and won first place prize for technological advancement. So that kind of brought it to the attention of not only the country, but the entire world.
This was a really important piece of progress for the whole country. The Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers, but you don't hear about the Bartholomews. But we're still there. We're still part of that whole movement of progress in the early 20th century. So, and I'm really proud of it. People look at me like, are you making this up? This is just crazy. Every once in a while, in a crossword puzzle or in some historical thing on TV, there's something about the first concrete street. There's something about Bartholomew. And you think, whoa, wait a minute, that's us.
Craft beer is big in Columbus. Ever wonder how we ranked alongside big brewing cities like Portland? Find out about that story and more at Curious C-Bus, where you submit a question online, and if voters agree, we report the story together. Look for stories, submit a question, or log on for a voting round at wsu.org/curious. The first automobiles were often called horseless carriages because that's exactly what they look like. That term especially made sense in Columbus, which was home to one of the nation's largest buggy works. It's an industry that disappeared as automobiles became popular. And in this From the Vault story, we'll see what may have been the first horseless carriage on the streets of Columbus.
Hey, Cliff.
Hey, Brent.
How you doing?
Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
How are you?
I'm well, but I want to talk to you about the Winton here behind you.
Okay.
It's really terrific, but it looks like it's missing something. A horse.
Yeah, this is made by the Winton Motor Carriage Company in Cleveland, Ohio in 1899, and it was one of the first automobiles to have pneumatic tires.
And by pneumatic, it means you have to inflate them, right?
Yes.
And what's the advantage?
Well, it makes for a much more comfortable ride.
Okay. And when would we have seen the Winton on the road, and where?
Well, this was made in Cleveland in 1899. The company started just 2 years before, and this is the first mass-produced automobile, they believe, that was sold here in Columbus, Ohio in 1899. And it was a wedding present for Mr. Chittenden and his wife, Alice Fitch, and it was a wedding gift from the groom's grandfather.
Well, Chittenden's a name we know from Columbus because there's a street named Chittenden, right?
Right.
You're missing something else here on this automobile, Cliff. That's a steering wheel.
Well, if you look here, it had a column that you would use for steering.
So this is earlier, and they're still trying to figure out how to turn a carriage into a car. Is that right?
Yes, and Winton was really important. He had held hundreds of patents, not only for things like the pneumatic tires, but for different engine developments. In many ways, a lot of what he was doing was replicated by other early car manufacturers, including Henry Ford.
We know early cars were powered by steam, by electricity, and gasoline. What powered this car?
This was powered by gasoline. And you're right, a lot of the early cars were experimenting with all different sorts of power, including steam and electricity. The problem with electricity is that the batteries at the time, even today, we're struggling with storage capacity. And then the steam engines, to make something this small run on a steam engine could be very expensive to maintain.
Mm-hmm. How long did the Winton company stay in the car business?
It stayed in the car business up until 1924, and the company was purchased by General Motors, and they continued to make motors under the name of Winton.
Now this looks very much like a carriage, a horse-drawn carriage, and we know Columbus had a huge carriage industry at that time. Did they try making cars in Columbus?
They did. In fact, the Columbus Buggy Works did try to make the switch to making automobiles, but most of the carriage makers in the country did try to make that same transition unsuccessfully.
Well, we talk about disruptive technology now, but disruptive technology was something that happened 1899 as well, huh?
This was one of the few automobiles on the roads of Columbus at the time. It really would have been something quite startling for people to see. People would write into the newspapers complaining about how fast these could go, and this had a top speed of 18 miles per hour.
Well, I guess for the time that was pretty fast, wasn't it?
Yes.
Well, it's beautiful. Does it operate? Could you take it out on the road and take it home?
Currently, it doesn't have any of the fluids necessary, like the oils and the gasoline, in order to operate it. And one of the things that we tried to do as far as preserving it, we no longer use it in its original function. But conceivably, one could, but in our efforts to try to preserve it for generations to come, we don't use it in its original purpose.
Well, it's beautiful, and I know that when people visit Ohio History Connection, they enjoy seeing this and other examples of transportation from the turn of the century.
Well, this has been in our collections for quite a long time. It was donated to us in 1921. So it used to be on display at the old Ohio State Museum at 15th and High, and it has been on display almost continuously since that time.
Well, thanks for letting us take a peek and, well, figuratively kick the tires.
If you missed any of our shows, log on to columbusneighborhoods.org. Plus, see our stories on the WOSU mobile app. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you back here next week on Columbus Neighborhoods.
Support for Columbus Neighborhoods is provided by
At American Electric Power, we've been proud sponsors of WOSU Public Media for many years and strong supporters of our headquarters city here in Columbus, both downtown and in neighborhoods like yours.
State Auto Insurance Companies, transforming to become a digital provider of auto, home, and business insurance. And for nearly 100 years, committed to the people and neighborhoods of Central Ohio. State Auto. The Columbus Foundation. Smart philanthropy for a smart city. ColumbusFoundation.org. Bailey Cavalieri. Your relationship with your law firm doesn't need to be complicated, it just needs to be right. CODA keeps our community moving forward. Falgren Moortime Marketing and Communications. Think wider. Ohio Health focuses on you and your family with a mission to improve the health of our communities. Women in Philanthropy at Ohio State, changing lives by giving together. And by contributions from these and other Columbus area families who support WOSU. Thank you.